This is your friendly neighborhood PhD, and you're listening to the TyePod.
Hey everybody, it's another episode of the TyePod. And today I'm happy to be joined by CarmenRose and talk a little bit about, our experience with chronic illness and disability, but also dig into some of the things that are unique to us outside of the disability space. So definitely looking forward to visiting with you and sharing some of your story with the listeners. So thanks for joining.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk more today.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Well, I will ask you the icebreaker question first that we touched on a little bit before, but I'm curious if there's a song that's kind of been with you for some amount of time or that, resonates now, maybe with you, and does it connect to disability in some way in your experience with that?
Yeah, what's interesting about this question, now that I think about it and when you phrase it that way, is it was my favorite song like growing up before I even became disabled. But now that I think about it, it's still, I just feel like it's applied throughout my life, which is cool. But I would have to go with a song that I was obsessed with. I think this had to start in middle school or high school. But it's How to Love by Lil Wayne. And it's one of his slower songs, and it's basically kind of about somebody like learning to love themselves and finding themselves. And so it's funny because that at first it didn't come into my head when you asked this question, because I was like, oh, that's from like middle school. I wasn't disabled yet. And then I think about it and I'm like, no, I feel like it does apply still, because I feel like I went through this journey of like having to learn to love myself again and like be confident once I had my disability diagnosis, and like especially being diagnosed in my 20s and looking around and not seeing a lot of other people like my age that I felt like I could connect to. Was like, yeah, it still applies actually, so it works out. That's a good question.
Yeah. I know that song, by the way. Like I remember hearing
Okay,
that when it
good.
first came out. I'm not into that genre quite as often. So that's really cool that I right away I was like,
Okay,
yep,
cool.
I know that exact
Love
one.
that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Well, that's interesting though that it evolved for you that way. Like it, meant something maybe a little bit different to you then, and then with your chronic illness and everything, it sort of evolved and changed to fit. Yeah, that's really cool to see how that could change. But no, I really appreciate that one. But as far as like your chronic illness and everything, like, can you just kind of give an overview of, what kind of you've been through on that? And obviously I'll have some, maybe follow-up questions on more details after.
Yeah, of course. So I would say my main diagnosis for chronic illness is chronic migraine. I struggle also with endometriosis and like ADHD and other mental health diagnoses, but my main one would be chronic migraine. That's really like the start of my disability journey. So I would say it was the summer of 2018. I was in a car accident and got 2 concussions. And I got what's called post-concussion syndrome, which just means that like your concussion symptoms don't go away, they don't get better. I later found out I was also like already pre-genetically disposed to getting chronic migraine. But I think the concussions just kind of brought it to the front. So I slowly started getting more and more headaches. But it wasn't until the summer of 2021 that I got my official chronic migraine diagnosis. So at that point, I was getting a migraine every day. So chronic migraine just means 15 or more in a month. And so when I got my diagnosis, I was at 30. And it was tough. I mean, at first it was like trying a bunch of different medications, and at first I was taking medications that weren't even for my condition, because there's like that thing about you have to like fail the cheaper ones to get access to the better ones,
which I don't understand.
Right. So I was on like stroke medication, epilepsy like it was just crazy, and it would like change my symptoms. But after maybe a year or so, I finally got on injections at home for migraine. And that was like for migraine specifically. And I still do one a month. I've been doing them now. I've gone through a couple different ones, but I've been doing injections for probably like 3 years now. And that's also really what started my social media journey, was doing those injections at home. Because I remember being prescribed an auto injector at home, and I was like, how am I going to go home and inject myself? Like, this is crazy. I'm not like, a doctor's not going to do this. And I tried to look up videos of people doing it at home, and I couldn't find any videos of it. And I'm just like a very visual learner. Like, if I can see what I'm about to do, like, I'll feel better about it. And so I was like, all right, well, I can't find any videos of it. I guess I'll just like put my phone up and record myself doing my injection. And then I posted it and connected with just like, again, people across conditions, because my chronic migraine is not the only condition that does an injection. Some people do weekly injections. So I really found my people then. And I was telling you earlier, like the silver lining of the diagnosis is the online community. But I'm finally at a better point where like I have a good treatment plan I've been doing. I finally got to like the top kind of treatment options. Like I do Botox quarterly. I do my auto injector every month. And it's still chronic. Like I would still say we're right at the 15 mark, but it's gotten a lot better, and I've learned a lot of ways of living with it, and found a lot of. I mean, I told you earlier, I honestly learned the best from people in the community. So I've learned so much over the last couple of years, and it's been a journey, but
yeah. Well, as a like needle phobia person, like I definitely can see where it would help to like have, to share like what your experience is and show the videos and stuff too. And for people that are coming along, maybe they're just starting to use that too, like to actually have someone to, to communicate with and look to for examples. I mean, like I think that's one of the cool things about social media too, it's like and like, I wonder what like the young versions of us would have done if that would have already been sort of established, and like what that would, there's a lot of benefits there.
Because I saw something the other day that was like, you ended up becoming who you needed when you were younger, which kind of reminds me of what you just said.
I've seen one of those. But
because
it's
I
interesting.
definitely, when I got my diagnosis, I definitely had to work on my own internalized ableism. Like I definitely at that time, because the society was like, oh, okay, disabled is like 60 plus, or somebody with a wheelchair, like something physical
There's
mobility aid,
that
right?
hard definition.
So I'm like, I think at the time I must have been 23, like mid 20s. I'm like, I'm mid 20s. Like I'm not disabled.
Right.
And I'm like, well, let's unpack that. Why do you think disabled is bad? Because it's not. And like, what does disabled mean? You know what I mean? Because you are, right? And then I think about it and I'm like, there could be other disabled people your age, but you just don't know, because when people look at you, they don't see, oh, she has chronic migraine. Like, oh, her head hurts right now. You know what I mean? Or, oh, she's nauseous. They like,
well, it's kind of that invisible disability thing.
Totally. Right. So I'm like, oh, if they can't see it with me, I couldn't see it with them. So I'm like, okay. So it was just like a whole learning experience of like, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? It's not just older people or people with mobility aids. It's
maybe everyone's disabled in some way, I guess.
Totally. And there's that thing about like, you will be disabled at some point in your life, even temporarily. You know what I mean? Like everyone will
be. Or if not that, even like, somebody that's
100%. Like it's gonna be in your world at some point. You know what I mean? Like again, even just temporarily.
How do you feel about like that whole label of disabled disability? Like I know there's a lot of people that put other terms out there that they're more comfortable with, and like what's your take on kind of that whole area?
I think in general, like people should do what makes them most comfortable. I think there's a lot of discourse around saying like a disabled person or person with disabilities, right? And for me, like if you're disabled yourself, like who am I to tell you how to identify? You know what I mean? Like whatever makes you more comfortable. I don't find one like offensive. I think I say like I'm disabled because I think about it like I'm not a human being, and like I'm just like, it's all me. Like, you know what I mean? Like I cannot kind of separate myself from this experience. But again, there's like no judgment for anyone that says it differently. But I think it took a lot of work probably to get there too. Because I think at first it felt awkward and uncomfortable to say disabled because of the way that like our society shows it, and just the different, again, like examples in media that we had growing up, and like what we've seen in movies, and you know what I mean? Disabled people aren't shown like being romantic or young or like, any of these things. So I think for me, it took me a while to be comfortable with it, but I'm now like, it took a long time, but it's like, no, I'm disabled. And it's also like, it becomes so much of my experience that I'm like, I'm doing myself a disservice if I don't say that, because then you don't see the full me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's kind of, kind of the premise of this whole podcast mission I've kind of been on, is showing like, well, we do have this chronic illness disability side, but also like that's only a piece of the full person, and like there's that common thread, like whatever disability is, whatever, however long, like whatever the details are, there's that common thread of like, we're all still humans that are wanting to do many of the same things. And it's like disability shouldn't mean that we just don't value or want to do other things too. And it's just, like kind of that, all of those assumptions and ableist type thinking, is it's hard. And like that I feel like that hard black and white thing of like disabled or not, or there's no spectrum of, of that space. And it's like, well, no, it's much more complicated and deeper than that. I mean, and it's like, it's like everything with, with like gender or like your background, or there's just all these different elements or pieces of us, I think, that give us our identity. And so, I appreciate what you're saying there, about kind of learning to understand what disability is, and that it is, this huge space. So I'm curious, like, though, on the medical side, because I know you did mention to me earlier that you moved, from the West Coast to the East Coast, and like, I think part of that time frame was when you were maybe being diagnosed or trying different treatments. Like, what was that like for you navigating, switching states and everything?
100%. It was really hard. Because also at that time I was 25, 26. So at 26, I lost my parents' health insurance. And at the time before 26, I still had their health insurance because I was working for a small business, because that was the only way I could be employed. That, like, they were very flexible. I was fully remote, but they obviously didn't have health care. So I'm still at my parents. But there's just like a lot of factors at that time. But moving was really hard because you have to get a whole new set of doctors. You have to get a whole new set. You move your medications. You move your pharmacies. And I'll be honest, like, so when I was we moved I was in Portland when I got my diagnosis. And then we lived in Miami for like 6 months. And Miami was really hard weather-wise because it can go from really sunny to like a monsoon rain. And so we didn't spend too long in Miami. And I think it was just enough time where I was like, okay, I'm not getting settled with these doctors, so like we can still move again, and like I won't be in my routine. But
so
I will
going
say,
through it 2 different times then, almost.
100%. And what I will say though, what's interesting about this question is that is definitely a consideration for me when I think about moving again. Like, my partner has talked about like, oh, I'd love to live abroad in like London for a year. And I'm like, that sounds great. And like, I could visit you, but like, and I'm like, I love you, but like uprooting like, I love my doctors that I have in New York now, especially like I'm going on 4 years here. So I've really like gotten like,
so it's stable kind of now.
100%. Like, I really like my current, and then I think about medications. I'm like, I don't even know that my medications are available over there. And then
that's a good point.
I'm like, I would have to, and especially I'm like, for a year, for me to move all my doctors just for a year, or if we thought about moving, like I've told her her family's from Pittsburgh, and I'm like, we could live and settle down in Pittsburgh, but other than that, like, it's either New York or Pittsburgh. Like, I'm not moving to go live in Vegas for a year or to go, but I think that she could be more spontaneous and do those kind of things. And I definitely am thinking about it from the thought of like, oh yeah, like it just wouldn't be worth it to move all my doctors. And then you have to start over, and then you're doing the initial appointments, right? It's not just like the follow-ups, like also with everyone now, I'm just doing follow-ups and have to start that all over again. So again, that's not something I thought I'd be considering in my 20s, that I'm like, oh, I'm making decisions on where I live based on like my doctors and my health. And that's the same thing with
consideration.
100%. It's the same thing with like my employment and my job. I'm like, I'm lucky to work full time, but chronic migraines definitely impacted my career. And I've definitely made decisions on employers staying or leaving or applying to something based on like their benefits and how flexible they are, and like, how accommodating they can be. So it impacts like a lot of the decisions.
So many layers, right? Like, and thinking about my own move from New Mexico to Tennessee, and like, a lot of that was also medical, because there was like a muscular dystrophy clinic closer by, and like I could, find a pulmonologist.
That's what I thought for going to New York City too. I'm like, oh, if we go to New York City, I'll have access to like really great stuff.
Right. And like just the anxiety and the stress of, even thinking about picking up and moving and changing that again. I'm like, despite maybe how bad we wouldn't mind a break from the country or something,
right.
Like,
you definitely have to consider that.
Yeah, there's so many other things. And like, what's hard for me, and I think a lot of us too, is like, we want to have that spontaneity at the age level that we are, and we want to do those kind of things, but at the same time, with the health and all the things that you're mentioning there that we have to consider, it's just like this balancing act of like, well, I can only be so spontaneous, but not, maybe as
Yeah.
much as I want to be or whatever. But yeah,
Right.
it's
Or I'm like, oh, I could be spontaneous, and then I risk like everything flaring up and like all the hard work I have done to, you
exactly,
know what I mean? So it's like I'm like I
yeah,
do best when I can plan and when I
yeah.
prepare, and like when I rather than like, oh, last minute, like let's go do this. I'm like, oh, but I need my hat, my noise canceling headphones, and my mask, and like
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like
exactly. Yeah.
so it's like it's hard to be spontaneous, and it's like I could be, but it just might not
But you're gonna
work
pay
out
for
as
it
well.
later.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and like you can't compare me to somebody like I'm 28 right now. You can't compare me to like how somebody able-bodied 28 would do. You know what I mean? Just
Oh,
because like, oh,
totally.
she could, you know what I mean?
Totally.
I'm like, it's not the
And
same.
what's funny is that for some reason it made me think about like dating apps and stuff too, like where you see all these profiles that are like, yeah, world traveling and all this stuff. And like you're thinking, well, okay, I guess that's the age group, but also like that's I could never be that. And it's just
Right.
like there's that ableist culture again, like where it's just assumed
Mhm.
if you're in your 20s and 30s and you can't do those things, it's like, well, something's wrong with you. Like why would anyone be into that? So it's I don't know. There's
Right.
just all these thoughts I think that kind of go through your head when you're disabled in certain
Totally.
younger
Yeah.
age groups. Yeah.
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 And it's not like because I became disabled that it's like, boom, all the like ableist
True.
stuff from society like went out my
Oh,
head. And I'm like, I'm because I'm
yeah.
disabled now, like I don't have those ableist thoughts. I'm like, no, I can be my own worst enemy sometimes. And like,
Seriously.
it's just, I'm like I grew up in this society, and even if it wasn't like overt, and I grew up with disabled family members or friends, and I did have like a decent amount of examples, it was nothing overt, but it's like the
Mhm.
way that you don't see it in media, or the way that it is okay, disabled is only somebody with a physical like mobility
Yeah.
aid. And so it's like just because I'm disabled doesn't mean I'm like, oh, boom, ableism
It's
gone. I'm like, no, I got.
gone.
And sometimes it's
Exactly.
subconscious, and I'm like, oh, like
And
like when I
that's
sit down
another
in the
factor.
disabled section of the subway, I'm like, oh, like I don't look disabled, and I'm like, but girl, but you are, like you should sit
Yeah.
here. You know what I mean? So if I see somebody that
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they look, yeah, I'm like, girl, but that's what probably people
See,
think
then
of
there's
you.
the
So,
assumptions, right? Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that totally. And like for the longest time, like being a wheelchair user in a power wheelchair, like that's the most obvious disability like you can have. And somehow I internalized that and I like pretended like I didn't even have it, and it was just like years later thinking about why was I thinking that way? Or why was I trying to pretend like it didn't matter or it wasn't there when it was? And it's just like the culture that you grow up, environment. I mean, there's just so many things that steer us into those like internalized
totally.
ableism areas. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally, because it's not like hopefully there were people like overtly telling you like, oh, you should be
Yeah.
ashamed. But it's like, but then if I think about watching movies and shows, I'm like, how often do I see wheelchair users just like in the mix with everyone as normal, and not the like one wheelchair friend that's like
That
the
sticks
like
out.
DEI,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like how many times have I seen them truly just naturally like woven in? I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't. So like no one tells me that, but the way your brain takes it in, I'm like, it's not like I've seen it normalized as
Right.
like it could be anybody, and like, you
That's the
know,
thing. Yeah. Yeah. And I even think about like it's always in some of like the action superhero movies, like, there's that one person that, is maybe the villain or whatever that sticks out. It's like,
right,
yeah, that's
right. That's the thing too. The
exactly
disability is always like the villain, or something
seriously.
like subtly negative. And again, it's not like anyone ever told me like, oh, disabled people are bad, but I'm just like, your
Mhm.
brain takes that in, and then it associates that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, it totally does. Yeah. But there's just so many issues going on there, I think for sure. I did want to ask you too, like about kind of the idea of intersectionality in your experience, because you are part of the queer community and then Latina community and disabled, like how has it been for you
Hmm.
balancing and experiencing, kind of all the stigmas that go with each community like that? I'm assuming there has to be
Totally.
sometimes when it's crossed over.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too, because as you asked that, I was thinking I've always been Latina, so I've dealt with
Yeah.
that like my whole life. But queerness, I didn't come out and realize I was queer until I was 22. And then
Okay.
I was diagnosed with chronic migraine when I
Mm.
was, if that was 4 years ago, I was 24, 25. So
So it came in stages then.
yeah, so that's why I realized I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. But it definitely, I think what's cool too, again, going back to like the online community, it's been like there's this interesting balance of the intersectional identities bring about like hardships and you're marginalized in community, but then there's also this beauty of like when I do get online, finding somebody that's disabled, like boom, so exciting. Finding somebody that's queer and disabled, oh my gosh, so
Yeah.
exciting. And then if I find somebody that's Latina, queer, and disabled, I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like there's just this immediate like experience that you have that you connect over. Like again, like we were saying earlier, like when I meet another disabled person and I like go to explain something and they're like, oh, I get it. And I'm like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
have to explain that. And like when I can talk to like when you think about overlap, I'm thinking about like talking to my queer disabled friends, like the annoying part of whenever I go to the hospital or the doctor and they're like trying to run a pregnancy test or like
Well, I saw one of your reels too on that too, and I was just like, that's
yeah, the amount of
insane.
times I have to be like, no, I promise you, like, like, because I'll say, they'll be like, oh, are you on birth control? I'm like, oh, no, I haven't been on it in like 5 years. So, like, well, do you want to talk about that? I'm like, no, like, we don't need to. And I'm like, the amount of times, and like, you get to the point where you have to be like, I'm dating a woman. And they're like, all right. But I'm like, I shouldn't also have to be
Well, I was going to
express
say you
that at
shouldn't
a
have
doctor's
to
appointment
share. Yeah.
because before I was queer, when I was straight, like it's never like I was at doctor's appointments being like, okay, I'm like 5'4", I weigh this much, I'm straight. Like, you know what I mean? It's not something that came up.
Yeah.
And so, and it happened to me even last week when I was at a yearly physical and they were like, oh, are you sexually active? And they're like, okay, we'll run a pregnancy test. I'm like, no, but you don't have to do that.
You don't.
But and so talking to my other queer disabled friends about like, oh, how annoying is that? You know, so it's like, it is nice to have those intersections because there's just so many unique parts of your experience that like, even my other friends that don't get it, like I love them and I'll always take the time to like explain it and they always take the time to learn. But to have those friends that you don't have to do the follow-up and you don't have to explain and they're just like, yeah, I get it. I'm like, oh,
like you can
that
hit the
has been
ground
so
running, like
affirming.
you've
Exactly.
gotten past all that
Like
other
that's why I also
commonality.
feel like you end up being closer because especially with my
Yeah.
disabled friends, I'm just like, there's so much that you get that other people that maybe have known me since I was a child, but like they don't get what it's like to be disabled in America. So like the past 5 years, there's just so much of my life that they can't connect to that the other person can. And it's such a unique experience that it's like it can be hard to have those identities, but then there's a lot of power in finding other people like that. And it's
and
like,
what's cool too is like for me having the different areas of the community, like, you know, on one hand, you do have the family and friends that you explain things to, and like they, you know, don't know right away what's going on. But then, I mean, like that, there's value in that too. But there's also this huge value of having a community that right away is just like, yep, you don't have to tell me or explain anything because I know exactly how that feels. And yeah, it's
I
really
think the
cool.
best part has been like there will be moments where I feel like, oh, I'm the only one that deals with this, and this is so isolating. Like it's only me, and it's so interesting because almost every time when I have a moment like that, and I like put my phone up, record a video, post it immediately, like all my disabled friends are like, "Yep, like oh, I was just dealing with this last week. Oh, I totally get it. I totally get it. Like totally get." And I'm like, oh, okay. And it doesn't make the issue go away, but I didn't need it to because I can't make it go away. But I'm just like, oh, do you know how nice it feels to not be alone? And I'm like, I don't have to wait on physical. Yes, it's group therapy. I don't have to wait on physical friends nearby. I can like put the video out and then like I have 10, 20 friends in the comments immediately that are like, oh, it's literally group therapy. I'm like, oh, okay, I feel better. Like it sucks, but we're in it together. So
but like that instantaneous thing, like it's so good to realize that, you know, you're not isolated dealing with it by yourself and like a vacuum, you know.
That's so funny. I really feel like social media for the disabled community is group therapy. That's such a good way to put it.
And honestly, I think it's been that way for me because like I've never tried a solo like podcast episode, but for me, it's just like that connection, that one-on-one thing of like, you know, kind of sharing experiences. And like, you know, I was going through a lot of advancement in chronic health stuff. And it was just like, you know, how would I have gotten through without finding that connection and that kind of that therapy approach, you know, that's in social media. So it's
right. And
it's really
there's so much about like people say, oh, those aren't real connections. But I'm like, if I didn't have that, there would be so many less connections in my life, actually. And especially when I was like chronic every day and I wasn't getting out of the house, I'm like, I would have literally only spoken to my fiance. That's it. And she lives with me. So I'm like, that's it. Like there's, you know what I mean? Like
which is awesome, but at the same time, it's
like there's so much more connection you can have when you are on like having virtual social media connections. So if you get it, you get it. It's okay.
Oh, totally. And like, so I know you said that your social media initially started with the videos of the self-injections, but like, where has it gone since then? Like, how has it evolved for you on that area?
I mean, I still post my injection videos, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
say every month, but because also I feel like every month is different. Like my very
Mm,
first viral video was when I messed up an injection, because
mm.
I didn't take the cap off, and so I
Oh,
injected it,
okay.
and then when I realized I took the cap off, the medicine went flying, and the backstory with
Ooh,
that was like the medicine's like $1,000. I was already like a week late on it. I was visiting home and I was leaving the next day. So like I was going to be leaving and I needed to now get a replace. Like it was a whole thing. And when it messed up, I just started crying and I like immediately stopped recording. I was like, I'm not going to post that. I told myself I'd never cry on the
yeah.
internet. And then
Uh,
my fiance and my parents at the time were like, oh, you have to post that. Like that's the part that people don't see. That's
so
the
they
invisible. It's
encouraged
like
you to do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're like people like you don't see this on the street. Like this, we only see this because we're with you at home. But like you have to show people
Yeah.
this. And again, it's one of those moments where I'm like, okay, but like this is gonna be so embarrassing. No one's gonna get it. And it went viral because again, across condition, there were so many people that could one relate to messing up an injection.
Mhm.
People could relate to just messing up medicine in general. People could
Yeah.
relate to how frustrating it is even to just get that medicine.
Well,
And
then there's a
just like
financial side. Like there's
a
just so
hundred
many.
percent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
interesting because there were some non-disabled people in the comments that were like, can't believe she's crying, blah, blah, blah. And then there's
Of
disabled people in the
course.
comments like, I would cry. And I'm like, thank you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, right.
Well,
Or
there's
there, and
like
there
the
was so
army
many
of
other people.
supporters. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some people that were like, I've cried. Like I did the same thing and I cried. And I'm like, okay, thank you. So I
Yeah.
would say
Yeah.
back to your original question, I would say I still post the injection videos because again, sometimes they're different every
Yeah.
month. But also just have learned to post about in general just like what it's like to be disabled in America because I
Hmm.
think that experience is really interesting. Like I posted one time when before my did I hit my deductible, like when it reset in
Yeah.
January, my injection was $900, right?
Yeah.
And there were plenty of people in the comments telling me why, and I'm like, no, I get why. I just think it's outrageous that this is
It
nine hundred
is.
dollars and it's
It is.
one injection. Like it's not like I was like, that's just crazy. Like
Yeah.
I'm blessed that I could pay for it and I like put
Well,
it
but
on the
like
credit card and paid it off. But like
it
that's
penalizes
outrageous.
you by making a mistake that's like part of, I mean, that's not a bad thing that you should have to stress about. And like I
Right?
use these like skin patches to help with like nausea and things, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't always stick to my skin, or sometimes it makes
Really?
it itch, or sometimes I have to take it off. Like, but then you run out of the allotment for the month, and you have to all of a sudden pay 200, 300 or more dollars to get replacements, and it's just like the stress of having the patch there and dealing with those things plus the money side. It's just
Right.
like,
And what you said too, it's like also it's not like when I do get this medication and it works, everything's fine and I'm cured and I'm living
yeah,
happy, pain
yeah.
free 100% of the time. Like it's just like taking the edge off. And even then it's like all this work to get it. So I've
Hmm.
really found that like just posting about also like those moments and my experience in general.
Yeah.
And so I honestly, and I don't usually like plan what I want to post about, but things will just like happen like that, where it's like, oh, my medication
Daily
was nine
life,
hundred
like,
dollars, or
yeah.
I've posted, I asked my neurologist one time to film, so I could record a Botox appointment because that
Mm,
too, eventually got prescribed Botox for migraine. And I thankfully, my mother-in-law, she also lives with chronic migraine. She was like my first chronic migraine
mhm.
friend, and she gets Botox. And so she took me to one of her appointments before I was prescribed it, so I got to see what it was like. But I had so many friends like ask me, like, what's that like? Like, does it hurt? Like, what did they do? So I asked my neurologist one time, I was like, can I film myself while you do it? And I posted
Interesting.
that. So it's a lot of those things. But again, I think what I like to do is like nobody sees that part of my experience. Like
Hmm.
it's not like people are with me at my doctor's appointments. Not like people are at home with me when I'm in bed, like with the shades drawn, like curled up
Hmm.
in a ball. Like there's so many parts of the disabled experience that you don't see unless
Hmm.
you live with them or you're their best friend or you're their doctor. And
Exactly.
so I think we talk about our experience a lot and we disabled people know what it's like, but I also like to show other people like this is what we deal with. And there's so
Yeah.
much, like, you know what I mean? Like I sometimes think like my disability is like a second full-time job. Like
Oh,
the
it
amount of
is.
appointments I have,
Yep.
I have to coordinate all my meds. I have to like, if I can't just like spontaneously go and do things. I have to like make, or I could, but I might get a migraine, right? So like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna like, like when my fiance works at MSG and it's been
Mhm.
great to go to basketball games and, um, hockey games, but I've learned to go and feel well. I have to like have a baseball cap for the overhead lights. I have a mask in case somebody's like smoking a cigarette or there's some other like
You're doing
strong
like
smell.
preemptive
I have the noise
things.
canceling headphones, like you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like all those things, and then I'll be fine.
Yeah.
So I've really, but again, those things can feel isolating. And so social media has really been a place where I just like find other people that get it and post about my experience. And I think, oh, I'm like the only one that deals with this. And then there's so
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
people in the comments. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Oh man, you said like 5 things there that I was just like, that's exactly how I feel about it. And like that full-time job thing is something that I've
Right?
tried to share like a whole bunch of times because it is. And honestly, like that is why I had to completely shift. Like I was in the research professor area and learning to train for that. I'm like, the way it is right now, the hours I would have to spend, and that there's just no possible
It's
way I
not
could have done
accessible.
it
Yeah.
as I was. And so you have to reinvent and pivot and completely like redesign what that looks like. And, now thankfully it's like, okay, well, I can bring elements back in of that life, but not, the other parts that there was just no physical way to balance all of that
Right.
with chronic illness, and so like
Right.
that
Like
right
if you tracked
away.
how many hours I spend towards like taking care of my disability, I'm like it's literally like a part-time free job. Like it's like
Seriously.
part-time like unpaid internship. Like
Yeah, and it's a hard balance to reach, I think. But like, social media, I think is almost in a lot of ways allowed me to continue parts of those life, but also like there were areas that I couldn't participate in, like volunteering or doing
mhm.
things to like help with advocacy and awareness. Like I didn't have the time with the job, and the illness to do that either. And so now it's like, well, I have elements of that I can bring
Yep.
in, and it's really more balancing as a human to be able to do other areas of your life. And like, not to say that wasn't and still isn't like it's a big part of, like the passion and everything, but it's like, it can't go on the way it was.
100%.
And then what you were saying too about attending, like sporting events and things and doing the preemptive thing with like the cap and the mask and everything. Like I went to a concert, now being in like the Tennessee area, for some reason, I'm just like feeling like concerts or the music scene is like this huge thing here, so I'm like
Mm-hmm.
preemptively have to plan for those things. And this was like the first cold concert that I'd been to in a long time, and so like I have a portable ventilator in my wheelchair. Like halfway through the event, like my muscles and everything just like locked up, and so I had to be more vocal about having family. Like I had to have one of my family members drive my chair for me, like with the joystick and
Mm.
everything, while I was sitting there
So
bundled
then
up,
you're like in the moment also like pivoting and like
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's not like you're just
yeah.
there enjoying it and then you go home. Like
And it made it where I had to leave early, too, which is not always
mhm.
what you want to do. So like, yeah, like right away you saying, with the things you have to consider and bring with you and everything. I'm like, well, even then, sometimes you have to
For
still,
sure.
like you said, pivot. But yeah,
Right. That's like
that's
best case
interesting.
scenario. That's like I'm giving myself the best chance at having a good time, right? It's not even
Mm-hmm.
like you said guaranteed. It's not like I'm like, oh, I do all these things and I'll feel great and I'll come home. And also, I so often get what's called a letdown migraine, which is where like when you go from
Oh,
high energy to low energy. So like also, and I always like to think that my body like is like, okay, you're doing this thing, but then as soon as I'm going home and I'm leaving, my body's like, all right, you're done. So like now we're gonna like give you, you know what I mean? So I
mm,
always feel like when I'm leaving the event or like sometimes when I'm leaving work, like I just like if I go from high stimulation to low, so even if I make it through the event and I'm like, oh, okay, like I am feeling well. Usually on the ride home, I'm like,
yeah.
here it comes. Like, okay.
Yeah. Is that, I mean, I'm guessing that's kind of a challenge to, like
Yeah,
before you even
it's
go, like anticipating that
yeah,
swing,
I have to what's funny is and like it feels silly doing it, but I'm like otherwise I'm gonna like be in pain and that's even worse. But there will be times like when my fiance and I used to during the pandemic, we would like go walk at malls when it was cold outside. We would like put our masks on and go walk around malls. And I had to start doing a thing where when I would come home, if and this is like really true for like any long walk we do, I would have to like kind of like slow down and walk around our apartment because if I just went from like full speed walking to like okay let's get in bed and like watch a show, my body
Oh
was like
yeah.
whoa that was too stark of a difference. So my fiance would be like getting ready for bed and I'd be like yeah I'll see you in a couple minutes, I just need to like do a couple laps to like slow down, and I would like
Gradually
fast
slow.
walk
Yeah.
and then like slow down because like my body just needs that time to adjust. And so I used to not do those kind of things. And again, I'm like, of course it felt silly in the beginning, but I'm like, I could not do it. And then I'm going to hurt as soon as I get into bed. And then I'm like, I wish I just like walked around my apartment for 2 minutes. Like,
yeah,
but it
sometimes
takes
that
a while to learn all
gradual.
those little things.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And then like, as it progresses or changes too, like you're always having
It's
to.
like different every month. I
It
feel like
is.
my symptoms are always changing. Like there's like 10 symptoms like I could have, but I feel like every month it's like whack-a-mole. It's like this month it's these two, and now the next month is this one, and like not that one anymore, but then this one comes back, and like so I'm like it changes all the time, and certain things that like, oh, that made me flare up last time and now I'm fine, but or like, oh, that didn't last month, so I thought I was fine and now I'm here and I'm like, huh, it's so interesting. Like
Well, I
there's a
think you
lot
just
you
like
can prepare for, but then
totally.
there's a lot that you can't. So
I think you just came up with the episode title too with the whack-a-mole reference there. So that's
oh,
the perfect way to
that
think about
honestly is
it.
how the experience feels all the time. Like when you get one thing, you're like, all right, cool. Like it's just like it's always
so, oh
some.
my
I'm like, if it's
gosh.
not that, like I'm like sometimes I think I'll have
That's
it really
so
set.
right.
Like even right now, like my current treatment plan is great. I like I like my doctors. I like have reminders on my phone about when to refill my like it's pretty good. But then like last month, my pharmacy, they like deliver the Botox to my neurologist's office, and last time they just delivered half of it. So then they had
Was
to
there
reach
a
back out and
reason?
no, they just messed it up. So
Why? It's
it's
always
like,
that
well,
way.
and then it was like a week delayed, right? So it's funny because before it was they messed up. I was like, I feel like I've been doing well lately. I was like, I didn't think about it. I really feel like I've been doing well. Of course, then 1 week later, my Botox and I flare up, and I'm like, okay, well, it just humbled me really quick. Like I was like, oh right. I'm
Isn't
doing
that
well
funny how there's
because
always that?
I'm on this consistent thing, and because you have those moments where I'm like, ooh, should I talk to my doctor about like maybe weaning myself off this medication? And then I'm like, never mind.
Then
I'm
you
just kidding.
realize like,
I'm like, this is why I'm feeling well. It's because of the medication that I continue to write. Okay.
Isn't that crazy too? Like those thoughts of like, hey, I could wean off. I could maybe get off everything and like be, non-dependent on it. Then you're like, oh, like
and then we'll be like delayed a week, and I'm like, right. No, you're right. This is why I feel good. Okay. No, you're right.
And I hate that too. How like the medical supplies and things are changed sometimes with insurance. Like you don't even know why or when that it just shows up.
I used to get my monthly injections. It's one injection a month. My insurance hasn't changed. My pharmacy hasn't changed. My prescriber hasn't changed. I used to get them 3 months at a time. So technically a 90-day supply. It's 3 injections. And then one day I went to fill it up and the pharmacy said, you're not approved for this. And I was like, I'm not approved for this. Like I've been getting this medication for 2 years now. And they were like, oh, it's because your prescriber wrote it as 3 months. And now your insurance is only letting you get 1 month at a time. And so then they had to write a new prescription. I was like, well, can't you just only fill one? They're like, no, because what's written is 3. So then you have to go back. I'm just like, and it's just like randomly in the middle of the year, you know what I mean? Or and then you'll randomly hit like your prior authorization expires and they don't tell you. And then I go to fill it and they're like, oh, you need prior auth. And I'm like, I've been on this for 2 years. Just look at the history. Like, what do you mean? You know I need it. I pick it up every month here. And they're like, well, and so then I'm like, so sometimes you think you got it down, and then the healthcare and the medical system just like throws a spanner in the works, and I'm like,
just because it can almost like, and that's part of the full-time job that we're talking about too,
right?
Like
it's like you're managing so much, and there'll be times where like I'm like on the phone with my insurance for like 2 hours, and then like that's 2 hours I didn't work, or I didn't unload the dishwasher, all these things, and like people don't see that part of the experience,
and like the mental weight of being on those calls.
Being on hold for like that's one of those things too, across conditions, like disabled people get that, right? They're like, oh yeah, no, I get what. And then sometimes you're on for like 2 hours and then they hang up on you.
I know.
Or they transfer
or you. Lose
you.
the connection and
I'm like, oh my gosh. It smells like that. I'm just like,
it's the worst. Yeah. And like you don't get to choose the background music either. So like that's another thing.
Right. So, and there's like the fine line of I'm like, I want it loud enough that I won't miss it. I'm like, seriously. I can't keep listening to this all. And I'm like, I want to have it low enough that I could go and do something else and maybe multitask. And then I'm like, but then I'm gonna miss it.
I know. There's just so much, but just those calls that just drive you crazy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was gonna ask you, you mentioned like filming the videos like in the doctor's office and like asking them like, what is that like? Are most of them okay with that? Have you met any resistance of like, I don't want you, recording? Like, I don't know what that feels like for you on
Yeah, I'll be honest,
videos.
it took me a long time to ask my neurologist because I was like
Yeah.
so nervous because I'm like, it feels weird. I've only ever done it with my neurologist at my Botox appointments.
Okay.
And I think what helped was I was seeing her for, of course I told myself like, I'm going to do it on the first appointment. It took me like over a year of like seeing her, and I do Botox like every 11, 12 weeks. So it's like practically quarterly.
Hmm.
And it took me a little while to like work up the courage to ask her, but I think that's what helped because like we had like a pretty trusted foundation. And I just told her I think too, I told her that I like do a lot of chronic migraine advocacy, and you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I film my own injections at home.
Hmm.
And so I just filmed like myself. And so like you can see her doing the injections, but you don't see her. And so she was just like, yeah,
Right.
as long as you don't get my face in it, I don't
Well, I was
care.
gonna say that's probably a caveat there.
Yeah, so she was fine with it, and that's the only person I've asked. Otherwise it's been like my stuff at home. But yeah, I was
Yeah.
definitely anxious the first time. But I just kept thinking like I can't find any videos of it online. Like I don't know. I don't see videos like I'm sure plenty of videos of like cosmetic Botox, but I couldn't find any of like what's it like to get like a medical Botox
Yeah.
appointment for chronic migraine. And especially because there's different spots. Like I think cosmetically it's more your like face and your this, but like for me it's like my whole head, like the back of my neck, like my jaw. And so I just hadn't seen that, and I was so
Yeah.
interested in to see what that was like. And it was nice because there were people that commented that were like, oh, I finally got prescribed this, like my appointment's next week and your video came across my page, like now I know what to
Yeah.
expect. I'm like, oh cool.
See,
Again, like
that's
being what you needed, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's huge. And like I think about, with me what I have to record and like, edit the videos and all that stuff. And I'm just like, what would that feel like to take it into a doctor's office and, film like some parts of the visit and everything. And it's just like that's a whole list of things to worry about there. But it's
100%.
needed because like, it's kind of like this day in the life thing that people don't
Exactly.
see
So you just like
ever.
nobody knows. And so that's what I told
Yeah.
myself too, was like, I just have to film it once. Like I just have to get it once,
Yeah.
and then I have the video. And yeah, it's just a lot that like, and again, I think especially I want to show like, I'm like people in your 20s, 30s, 40s, like you wouldn't expect that I would have to do this all the time. All
Yeah.
these appointments, like it's not just like, oh, sometimes her head hurts. Like she's on the phone with the insurance and she has to go to the
Right.
pharmacy, and then all the appointments and all the, you know what I mean? There's a lot
Yeah.
that people don't see.
Yeah, for sure. And like as far as like the migraines go, like what do you feel them coming on like well ahead of time? Like what's that experience like going through one? I mean, that's kind of I know there's a lot probably that goes on with it.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Again, it changes, but what's interesting
Yeah.
about migraine is migraine's broken up between what they call migraine with aura or migraine
Hmm.
without aura. And aura just means like signs that you know it's coming. And a lot of people get visual cues. So they'll get like what would look like floaters in your eyes, or
Hmm.
like kind of flashes, like some visual cues, like something's
Hmm.
off. I unfortunately don't have aura, and it's funny because it's one of the things I've always wished I had, so I would know it was coming, because I really don't know it's coming until it's there. But back to our point about I learned so much from the community. Again, I only really had ever seen aura talked about with like visual changes, and I the other day saw somebody post, not the other day at this point, a couple months ago at this point, I saw somebody post that excessive yawning, like to the point of it being annoying and like kind of getting in your way, is a
Oh
sign
yeah.
of a migraine coming. And I was like, really? I wouldn't have thought about that. But there are times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm yawning so much. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that as aura. And then sometimes I'll like notice like 30 minutes later, my head starts to hurt. And I'm like, huh, okay. So it's just different. And I've had to slowly learn what like my signs are, but I really don't have many signs about when it's coming. I think the
Hmm.
biggest thing is I've really learned my triggers. So I know when to anticipate one. Um, I think the hard thing is too that like sometimes with your triggers you can treat them and you can't. Like my biggest trigger is weather, and there's nothing I can do about that. Like I can't change the weather, but I can anticipate it in the sense of like, oh, like prepare that I might get a headache because it's going to rain tomorrow, or those kind of things. Like today was the perfect example. I woke up, I got a really good night's sleep last night, slept in, and I woke up and my head kind of hurt. And I was like, that's weird. I slept well, like I hydrated, like I'm thinking about all the things. And I'm like, I wonder why I would wake up with one. And
Yeah.
then I like pulled the blinds and I saw that it was raining. And I was like, oh,
That's
that's
what it
why.
is.
Got
Yeah.
it, got it, got it. So
Yeah.
I think the best way for me to predict them has just been knowing, right? Like I'm like, oh, if I know I'm going to go to a sporting event or something, like let me bring I bring things I know, like, oh, those sounds might trigger it, the smells might trigger it. And so I really don't know it's coming until like I just feel the shooting head pain.
Yeah.
And I think too, what's interesting about migraine is it's so funny that like one of the common misconceptions people say like, oh, it's just a headache. But because I'm always like, trust me, if it was just a headache, like it would be a different story. I
Right.
wish. But what's interesting, my neurologist taught me one time is that you don't even have to have head pain for it to be a migraine. I remember one time I was on one of these meds, and nausea has always been a big symptom for me. And I saw her and I was like, yeah, it's so weird. Like I actually haven't had as much head pain this month, but I've had so much nausea. Like I've just been nauseous all the time. She was like, oh yeah, those are still migraine attacks. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Really?
I didn't have any head pain. She was like, yeah, you don't have to have all the symptoms. Like that's the main symptom, but there's like different symptoms. And she's like, only one of them has to be present. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, so it's like, it's as long as it's like it's usually head pain and something else. Like if it's just like broad head pain, that's like usually a headache. But when it's like one side, or when it's like the head pain and nausea, or the head pain
Yeah.
and sensitivity to noise, and so it's been a lot of learning. And it's just interesting too, because I feel like when I get a migraine, just my whole body becomes really, really sensitive. So my sense of smell is a lot stronger. My I feel like I can hear everything. Like tastes are
Yeah.
so strong. Like I just become so sensitive to everything. And I always say like I feel like I have like the nose of like a drug sniffing dog, because I will literally smell something. My fiance's like, I can't smell that. And then like
Yeah.
5 minutes later, she's like, oh, like there'll be like, I'll like come in. I'm like, I think someone was like smoking a cigarette in the hallway.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't smell it. But like 5 minutes later, she's like, oh yeah, now I smell it. I'm like, I told you.
Well, so you get like the very first like particles or whatever that float in.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. That's
It's
very
just like, it's like
interesting.
it's really my senses that
Yeah.
can trigger it and then like can get affected.
Right. Right. That's so interesting though that they brought up the fact that, it doesn't have to be the
It was
predominant symptom
crazy.
even. Yeah.
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 Because and again, that's like how we were saying, like your symptoms just change every month. Like,
Yeah.
like sometimes it was really like whack. I'm like, cool, head pain gone, but oof, nausea. Like, why did that explode out of nowhere? And so
Yeah.
every month it's something different.
It's
But
so
that was really when
strange.
I was on those like different meds for different
Yeah.
conditions. And that's the thing too, like certain meds can change your symptoms and so then you have to be like, okay, what's the condition and what's a reaction to the meds? And then keeping track of
Yeah.
all the like, okay, is this a possible side effect of that one or that one or that one?
Well,
You
there's
know?
all the variables, right? Like you have to consider, and like how do you reduce it? And if you have multiple meds that you're taking at the same time,
Right?
are they cross-reacting
Right.
or
And
like?
then I'll be like scrolling on TikTok and somebody be like, oh, and you shouldn't take that medication with vitamin C, right? So don't have it with orange
Mm-hmm.
juice. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Like how are you
like
supposed to
I was taking that and
manage?
then I would take my morning vitamins right after. So of course it's not working. I'm like, okay, so I have to take that
Yeah.
in the evening. You know what I mean? And so there's just like so many
Yeah.
little things like that.
There's just so many complexities there, and like the weather too, and like that's something I never realized as much until like the last 5 years, is that on the cloudy days there's like pressure changes on the
Mhm.
systems moving through, and like the
I
joints.
never
It's
thought I would be so knowledgeable about barometric pressure. I didn't even know what barometric pressure was 5 years ago. And
seriously.
now I
Yeah.
have an app on my phone called WeatherX that
Yeah.
tells me when there's going to be a major shift in barometric pressure, because that too usually gives me a migraine. And you can do stuff like put headphones in, because again, it just like slows down the rate at which your body like kind of adjusts to the pressure
Yeah.
change,
Right.
right? Like you're on a plane kind of.
Right.
But yeah, I've never been so tapped into the weather. And that's another one of those things I feel like is across conditions. And
Yep.
we'll go visit my fiance's parents and they'll have like bone aches, and there'll be a morning where it'll be raining and we all wake up and I'm like, my head hurts. And they're like, yeah, my bones hurt. And I'm like,
The
yep,
whole
right. Like,
household is like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I've heard the same, like when there's rain, there's pain. And that I
Hey,
always
that's a
think
good
of
one.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so our
Yeah.
friends will be there was like I had a friend had a birthday party a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and it was like this awful northeast storm, and I texted her, I was like, hey, I'm not gonna be able to make it. She's like, oh, I figured, don't worry about it. I was like, cool,
Yeah.
thank you.
Like I got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But you're right. You become experts in so many areas that you never would have thought, like
right,
medical and
like
weather and yeah.
yeah, and like that's the thing too. I feel like you like the longer you go in your journey too, I've really had to like teach myself a lot to get the care I want, right? So I have to ask about this certain treatment, or I like something I learned
Right.
about. So there's so
Right.
much self-education I've done. And especially when it comes to like the pharmacy, like I feel like I could have my pharmacy degree at this point, the way that I know that like all the things, and I have to do that and you have to get this and that. And then there are so many things that I sometimes like I'm telling them like what they need to do, or
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Oh, and did you know?" I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. I know,
I already
I
got
know."
it.
And
Yeah.
now like
Yeah.
whenever my fiance gets prescribed a new medication, she like hands it to me. She's like, "Will you read it and tell me what I'm
Oh
like, "Yeah,
yeah.
I got
Yeah.
it." Like, because I'm like
Yeah.
a pro now at like reading it. I'm like, okay, so we can't take it with that, and we got to take it in the morning, and a full glass
Right.
of water, and
Right.
like I never thought I'd be this knowledgeable about my all this medical stuff. But that's the thing, whenever my
Yeah.
friends like have a non-disabled friends like have a medical issue or like a pharmacy question or anything,
Yeah.
they come to me
Right.
because like, you'll know. I'm like, yeah, I will. Yeah.
Well, see, like someone with a chronic illness should actually be a pharmacist, or like those should be
Right?
the people that are like,
Right?
affecting
Because when
policy
they
and
delay my stuff, and I'm like, I
yeah.
think you guys forget, like, you're providing life-saving medication. Like,
Right.
this makes me not in pain. Honestly, it doesn't even make me not in pain all the time. I wish it did. But, like, this is what helps me get through
It,
every day.
to
And they're like,
function. Yeah.
oh, sorry, we have to order it. I'm like, I know we have to order it every month, but I've been getting this
Yeah.
medication with
Yeah.
you every month for the last 2 years. So why you don't keep it in stock blows my mind, right? And I'm like, I know you could keep it in stock, but every time they're like,
Right.
oh, it's going to be delayed, we have to order it. And I'm like, I know.
Right. But it's just like, do you forget like why
I'm like,
I'm
I think you
even
forget what,
taking
right?
this? Because yeah, and like it's to like function at a baseline level,
Literally baseline on a good day.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So it's the worst when you have that happening. It's like, well, I
right.
need this tomorrow, and why is there
Yeah.
a delay? Like,
And I
yeah.
think what's frustrating too is really the cost, because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know about pharmacy coupons until I had this really great
Oh yeah.
pharmacist in Florida. And again, I know that like they're super overworked in New York City and probably understaffed, but like
True.
I remember I had this one medication that again is like before my deductible, it can be like $1,000 because again, it's a newer medication. It hasn't been out for 10 years, so it hasn't gone generic, but it's the only condition that's finally for migraine specifically. So I remember trying to go pick it up, and thankfully that pharmacist in Miami gave me this coupon and I got it for free. And I was like, whoa, what's this? And then do you know how many times I will go to pick up something in New York and they're like, okay, and are you aware of the cost? It's going to be $500. I'm like, here's my coupon. And what frustrates me is that you could have looked up a coupon and done this for me. And I want to hope you honestly don't have the time, but like, you didn't even tell me like, hey, did you know, like, I always have to go with my coupon and give it to them because they won't. And then they'll just be like, yeah, it's $500. And I'm like, it's frustrating because when I'm in like a smaller town or just maybe when they have more bandwidth, whatever, like I will find like if I'm like, don't you want to like help the patients? Like, don't you feel bad charging me $500 for this when there's like coupons and things you can do?
Yeah. Yeah. And it'd be nice if there was like some way that was just like built in, like as they're bringing up the cost of the medicine,
just
like
like
it should
all
just,
the options, right?
well, we have the internet, right? Like AI is like, can we like at least put it to that kind of use if it's going to be around?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's the worst. And like, I don't know, it's just constant issues like that going on that and $500 is significant. It's not like a $20 difference.
100%. 100%. And I'm like, oh, and at that point, I'm like already in pain, already flaring up. I'm like, I need this medication like yesterday. And now I'm paying $500 for it. And I'm going to need it again next month. And it's like this whole thing. And yeah, it can be really exhausting.
So much.
I mean, and that's the thing. I'm like, you don't have to know everything, but if not, you might get away with them taking advantage of you. And if you didn't know about the coupons and you didn't do, because I'm like, sometimes I can just go to the pharmacy and not do my research, but I might be paying a bill super high that if I just take the time and do that. But I'm like, I just wish I knew that like you already ran me through the coupons and all these things.
And like we talked about, like if it's somebody just trying to deal with an illness, going through all of these things, how are they supposed to know all the options? Like there's no way they can know that. So
these are the kind of things I learned from the community that were like again, I'll post something. They're like, have you heard of this copay assistance program? Have you heard of this patient savings program? Have you, there's like almost always a patient savings program for, I mean, even my Botox, you can like, you send in your bills afterwards and they like reimburse up to 1,000 or something. But again, it's not like all my pharmacists or my doctors tell me. Like I usually find out from other people in the community that also couldn't afford it, or like you can afford it, but I'm like, but I can't do this every month. Like,
I know. And every time like there's a new medicine or just like a random change in cost or they put you on like a generic brand. I mean, it's just like there's so much that can change that you have no idea until it's there. So it's just
Yeah, and there's
it's rough.
certain, I remember there was a shortage of one of my medications and they were just like, yeah, there's a shortage. We won't be able to fill it indefinitely. I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you mean indefinitely? You don't know when? Like, make some
Like
more. I don't know. Like, what?
I know. Like
There's
that just
like,
leaves you like, what are you supposed to do? Like, how are you supposed
right,
to deal with that? Yeah. Yeah.
right. And then I'm
Well,
like
like,
researching the generics and the other
oh,
versions and I'm
I know.
telling
And
you know what I mean?
ingredients. And like
Yes.
I have all these allergies that just showed up in the last 10 years to food dye and food coloring. And like,
No
so
way.
now I'm having to look at the medicines like, oh, there's red number 40 or there's yellow number 5. And I'm like, yeah, I
That's
can't take this.
crazy.
Yeah. So it's just, and
Yeah, I
first
know.
of all,
I'm like always up.
why are we
Right.
coloring medicine anyway? Like,
We don't need to.
yeah, like that should
I
be
feel
the
like I'm always
last.
on that website that's like check drug interactions. I'm like, okay, I got
Yes.
prescribed something new, so let me double check.
Another thing you have to worry about. Yeah. Yeah. But I did want to shift just a little bit into kind of like some mental health stuff. And I saw one of your reels on people pleasing. And like that is something I really
Hmm.
like. My life is that. So I have to get your thoughts on, your experience there, like where you're at with it now.
Yeah, people pleasing is interesting because I mean, shout out to my therapist. I really, really like my therapist. We've been together 2.5 years now. I see her once a week.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say I never really, like when I was younger, I didn't think, like when people talked about people pleasing, I didn't think of it as such a negative thing.
Yeah.
And I also think I just always thought of myself as like, oh, I'm so thoughtful and I'm so empathetic and I like go
Yeah.
out of my way for
Right.
people, which is true.
Yeah.
But you can do that to a point where you don't hurt yourself. Like you're not doing it at your own expense. And so I think what I really, I think it's hard too because it's different for everyone, but I definitely have uncovered that like I developed people pleasing as a tactic to like keep myself safe. So you
Yeah.
keep people happy and you like keep the mood up and to keep people from being upset. And
It's a
so
safety like
it's
mechanism.
literally like
Yeah.
a safety thing. So there's also a certain aspect of I can't just be like, oh, I don't want to people please anymore. I have to recognize, like, okay, I understand that I developed this when I was young and it served a purpose and it kept me safe. And I super appreciate you, being there when I needed you, but like, I got it now and it's
Yeah.
actually pretty detrimental to my health. And I so strongly think that a lot of my like unprocessed childhood trauma and unprocessed just feelings were a huge catalyst for chronic migraine. And I
Mm.
think can be a big catalyst. Just like I'm like, there's so many of these emotions and things that I didn't process and they don't go away. Like I'm the biggest advocate for like you gotta feel your feelings because if you think they just like boom go away and like just poof, disappear in the air, like they don't. They just like go in a
Nope.
box and you like put them in a room, but like eventually that room's gonna be overflowing.
It's still there. Yeah.
It's still there. Like it's like even if I don't remember it here, like my body remembers it. And so my therapist has done a really good job of pointing out where I'm like hurting my own self with people pleasing and like how I'm not showing up for myself
Hmm.
because I remember talking to her one time and just saying like, I'm really proud of myself for not becoming like what I saw growing up. Like I'm not, hard on people, I'm really kind, I'm really thoughtful, I'm really patient. My therapist like, sure, for other people, but you don't do that for yourself. Like you're not patient with yourself, you're not thoughtful with yourself. And I was like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
yeah, you're right. Like I'm so hard on myself and like the way that I will jump and do something for somebody else,
Mm.
but then like I haven't showered in days and like I haven't like eaten a good meal, but like if my fiance's not feeling well, like I'll come up with something for her, but like I haven't
Yeah.
taken care of myself. So it's been really hard, but what I think I've really realized is you also get in your head that like it's the end of the world and if I say no, like
That's
people are going to
it.
leave or they'll be upset. And by the way, if they are, like, that's, what I mean? That's on them, not you. And like, maybe you don't need those people in your life. Like, but that can
True.
be hard to work through that part. But there's so many times where I've thought, like, oh, and it's the end of the world if I say no. Like, my fiance would be like, oh, can you go grab something from the other room? And I used to be like, yeah, of course. And now I'm like, oh, are you going to be upset if I say no? She's like, no, I'll get it. But I just wanted to see
Yeah.
if you, yeah, like, if you were going. And she's like, no,
Yeah.
but I'll
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, right. It's not like you were gonna break up with me and leave and move
Well,
out
I'm
if I
like
said,
right
you
away,
know what I
like your
mean? But
mind goes to the extreme, right? Like it's
right.
just gonna burn a bridge, and it's like not always that.
100%.
Yeah,
And again, it's like, it's okay if I do that as long as I would also do that for myself, where it's
yeah,
like, okay, if I'm thirsty, but I just like don't get out of bed because I'm like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. But then as soon as she asks for something, I'm like, oh yeah, let me get out. I'm like, no, like I gotta take
yeah.
care of myself. Like it's like put your mask on first. You know what I mean? Like they say, in those like airplane safety videos. But
Mm-hmm.
it's really really hard, and I often find myself in like high stress situations. Like I often revert back to people
Yeah,
pleasing,
without even
and so I
realizing, probably. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, totally. And so again, I have to recognize and take that moment to be like, look, again, understand why the purpose you served and like why you were
hmm
created, and like totally appreciate it, but like I got it from here, and like I can't say no. And the right people will get it and people will be fine. Like it's not the end of the
yeah,
world.
right.
So it's hard though. It's really, really hard. And there are some days I slip back and I'm still people pleasing, but I'm just learning how to be thoughtful in a way that like doesn't burn me out. Because when
Yeah.
you also in the end, when I don't burn out, I can show up better for everyone in my life
Well, that's
anyway.
what I was
Like
gonna
it's
say. Is
for
it helps,
everyone's best interest. You know
right?
what I mean?
It helps
Like,
everybody when when your self care is in a better place, and it's hard. Like
yeah.
you would think. For me, I feel like I've been dealing with that a long time and trying to figure out how to balance it out, and I still don't have a good answer. Like I still don't have a perfect thing, and like you said, reverting back to it is so easy, and then you're just sitting there
Yeah.
like,
It's like muscle
oh, there I
memory.
go again, like
Right. And
and
I have to remind
it's
myself, I'm like, oh, I did that for 25 years and now I'm doing this new
right.
thing for a year. So, of course, in the
It's
moment of
gonna
stress,
take
my body's going to
time.
go back to the thing it's done for 25 years because that's really
Yeah,
familiar. But I need to just keep
yeah,
working this muscle and keep working this muscle. And it's uncomfortable. But
yeah.
my therapist used to tell me I had a low tolerance for discomfort. Like, I just will do anything I can to not be in an uncomfortable
Oh, total, like
situation.
avoiding conflict, right?
Right, right. And
Yeah,
again, understand like why that served me when I was younger or at other times in
yeah,
my life. But what she's really taught me, she's like, discomfort ends. Like, I want you to be in an uncomfortable situation and for once just sit in it and really tell me, like, just notice what happens. And I remember the first
mm-hmm.
time I'm like, I think it was like I said no about something, right? And I wanted to say yes. And then I just like sat in it.
Yeah,
And like 10 seconds later, I was like, all right, I feel okay. And I was like, it's so weird because 10 seconds ago I was like, oh my gosh, this is never going to end. So I'm going
isn't
to do
that
whatever I
funny how
can just to not
quickly?
feel it.
Yeah,
And then I actually went through it, and sure, it was uncomfortable, but it was like 10 seconds and then it ended.
right,
And then I was
right.
not uncomfortable. And the other option would be to be uncomfortable for the rest of my life. Like I'm like, it's hard, but you do realize
Yeah,
I'm like, if you sit in it, it does
yeah,
end. And there's some good stuff on the other side of it. And it's okay if it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's
right,
fine.
right.
But we're gonna, you know what I mean? It takes a while, but I have
Yeah.
found it's worth it.
Have you lost like any relationships you thought were close because of that, or
For
has it?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what's been hard too about a important therapy revelation, I would say, is that I
Yeah.
think people talk about putting up your boundaries and like, working on these things, and it's
Mm.
very like fluffy and beautiful and like eat, pray, love, and like put
Yeah.
up your boundaries and all this stuff. And like
Exactly.
it's actually so uncomfortable, and it's actually it feels so uncomfortable, it feels so weird, it feels so
Yeah.
foreign, it's not easy, it's really uncomfortable with some people might get it, and I think too some people might just need like a little bit of extra coaching because again it's not
Yeah.
something you've ever done before and now you're doing it. And it really came to the point of me realizing like I just had to accept too. I'm like, okay, the right people will get it. And if you
Right.
don't get it, you're not the right person. And maybe our friendship made sense like 10 years ago when I was in college and not disabled and I could go out and do all these things. And it just doesn't make
Right.
as much sense now. Some people are there for seasons and reasons. Like I used to
That's a good
hold on,
point.
but I just feel like I'm like you have, but it's really hard to like get to the point where because there would be certain people that you really like had this whole idea and you've held on to it your whole life,
Well,
or
like a long
they were your
term thing.
yeah, and then all of a sudden you change just life, like you're in different parts of your life and
Right.
you need
And that's
different
so
things,
hard.
and it's so hard. But I'm like, or I could keep you in my life and I'm going to be continually disappointed, or I'm going to keep hurting myself, and I'm like, at that point
True.
I'm the one hurting myself because I know, like, and I'm just like doing it over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's definitely hard, but I do think I was talking to my therapist about the other day. I feel like looking back on 2 years, I'm like, oh, a lot of the work I'd done the last 2 years, I was avoiding the rest of my life, and I'm on the other side of a lot of it. It was really uncomfortable. I had a lot of hard conversations, but now I'm like so much more at peace.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
it was really uncomfortable to go through that, but the alternative was to just be uncomfortable my whole life, like just never address it. So sure, it was an uncomfortable period, but it wasn't it ended, right? Like it felt like it was never going to end, but it did. It took some time, but it did.
Yeah.
And so sometimes your circle gets smaller, and I really realized like quality over quantity.
Oh, totally. Yeah. The inner circle it's a very select group, right? Like,
yeah. And I used to really care more about quantity, maybe not even consciously, but you just like, you feel more secure with more friends. And I'm like, maybe it's the disabled experience, maybe it's just living in the world, but I'm like, I don't have that much energy anymore. So I'm like, I would rather have
you don't have the patience for that. Yeah.
No, I'm like, I'd rather have a solid group of like 3 of us than like 10 surface level friendships that I'm like, that's exhausting and draining. I'd rather just have a couple of core people that get it, and that's fine. But it takes a while to get there.
It's hard to let it go. I mean, like when you have, the closer ones, and it's like you want to hold on to that, and letting go it's not always easy. But then you're, like you said, do you want to keep dealing with it long term, or like when I'm sure the ones that have like remained or persisted, or like maybe you've said no, or put a boundary up, and maybe you both navigated it together, like it's a stronger, better friendship because
100%. 100%. And I think what's beautiful is I saw someone talking about boundaries the other day, and I think too, sometimes people think of boundaries as a negative thing of like, oh, they put their boundaries up. But when you really think about boundaries, it's me telling you, like the alternative is I don't tell you and I cut you out of my life, or I'm uncomfortable with our relationship. Me telling you a boundary is me saying like, okay, I really love you, and this is actually like how you could show up in my life in an even better way, and like this is how you could even like be a better friend. It's like me inviting you in and saying like, I really care about you, and there's just like, this is how I like to do things, and I want you to know that. Because I'm like, the alternative is I'm just like, oh yeah, they don't get it, so I'm not like, I will only open up and share a boundary with you if I think that you could respect that, and I want to keep you in my life. And a lot of people, I think, at first were like, oh, you're putting up so many boundaries, and I'm like, yeah, because the alternative is I don't let you in like this, but I'm telling you these things so we can exist even better.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
And what you said too about like, it's hard to like have that loss. I think what's interesting is we really grow up thinking that grief is only something that happens when somebody passes and is like physically no longer with us. And I really learned about what's called ambiguous loss, which is when you somebody that's still alive. So it's like, like it could be, the experience I had is I actually had a friend who went to prison for a couple of years, and her and I was kept in contact, but I didn't see her. It was way different. And that's the first time I learned it, because my therapist explained like, oh yeah, I'm like, but she's still alive. Like, why am I sad? She was like, oh, because she's in your life in a way different way. And then I experienced it later in life when I was having these kind of moments, because you're grieving a friendship, because you're like, I'm like, this person isn't dead though. They're still alive. And maybe I even still love them. They're just not my life anymore. But you have to grieve that change and like that loss, even if it wasn't like physical. And I had to do that with my own disability. I had to grieve the version of myself I thought I'd be in my 20s. I had to grieve who I was before I became disabled. And like, there's all this stuff about, oh, like grief's just when somebody dies. But I'm like, oh no. And again, it goes back to like, you got to feel those feelings, because like if you just push it away, it doesn't go away. But it's really helpful if you got to process that grief, because it is sad if you lose friends over that kind of stuff. It's okay to be sad and be like, I'm really sad, and I know it's just best that we aren't in each other's lives the same way we were,
See, now I'm realizing that this is my therapy session for the week, I feel like, because that
group
was
therapy.
Like that ambiguous loss. I've never thought about it that way. Like I never even considered it.
And it's just if somebody, it can even be like, say like you were in a job for 10 years and then you're not, like you just, that job didn't go away, and like you even chose to leave probably, but it's just like you have to grieve that change and that. So it's like, it's somebody that's still around, or it's just things have changed, and it's like okay to grieve that. And like you have to go like look at the steps of grief, and like you go through the, like, you know what I mean? Like my therapist and I have done grief therapy about things, about relationships that I've lost or certain things, and you go through the same steps that she would take me through if I actually lost a person, because it's like, it's significant. Like you used to be in my life this way, or this thing used to be this way, and now it's not. And you gotta like
And then
give
there's this
the proper
like you
attention
said,
to
the
it.
self grief with chronic illness and everything. Like obviously we do lose, a part of or a version of us that we didn't want to
Right. Things were
necessarily. But
different before,
of course it makes sense that it's going to take you some time to figure that out and to process it and figure out where to
Right.
go next, and so like
Right. It's
that's
not just like, boom, I'm diagnosed. So like now
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
comfortable. I got it. Like this is my new existence and everything's great. Like it's not
right.
just like hit the ground running.
That's so crazy. Yeah, like I don't know. I've feeling some self enlightenment moments here, but
Oh, I
that's really
love
cool.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know there's so many other directions, but I did want to get to kind of some of the things that you're passionate or interested in. Maybe you kind of escape from, the chronic illness area. Like, what are the things you're into that you just like that are part of you?
I like that question. It's so funny. Like immediately what comes to my mind is like dogs. I love dogs. We used to
Ooh,
raise guide dogs for the blind when I was younger, and I
really?
loved doing
Okay.
that. I want to do that again. My fiance really doesn't want to do it because she says she wouldn't be able to give them back. But I'm like,
Oh, I
it's really
know. Oh,
rewarding.
wow. Yeah.
It's really cool. I would have to do it if we like already had another dog. But
Yeah.
really passionate about dogs. Let's see. I love the movies. My fiance and I have a AMC movie pass, which is where you pay
Ooh.
like $20 a month and you can see like 4 movies a week.
Any genre in
Um,
particular or kind of everything?
Kind of everything, but I would say I love action. I love
Okay.
horror. I love scary movies.
Well, horror's a good, yeah,
Um,
that's good timing.
yeah, right. I love spooky season. Um, what else? I think just honestly, like it's funny, the advocacy work, I do it on social media, but it's also like part of my job. I work for a
Mm,
foundation. So it's just really something that's, I think, important to me in all aspects of my life. I always told myself, like, my job, I had to be doing something for the greater good because I'm like, if I'm
yeah,
giving 40 hours of my life to you, like, I'm just going to burn out if it's just a sales job or
right.
if
So
I'm
make
not
it
getting,
deeper
yeah, it's like,
connection.
yeah, it needs to be meaningful. So, I've worked in nonprofits. I'm currently at a foundation and I love doing that. Really passionate about walks in Central Park.
Mhm.
I really like photography.
Yeah,
That's funny. That's really cool. It's sometimes you like stop and don't think about those kind of things. It's like those simple
right.
questions that
Yeah.
I'm like, what do I like to do?
Well, and it might be
Yeah.
like the simple littler things like the walks in Central Park. I mean, you're doing it because you like it and it helps you, and you don't like you shouldn't have to think about it almost as
Yeah.
something like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so I think, and just like time with friends and family,
yeah,
it's like can be, and again, not doesn't even have to be virtual, and it doesn't even have to like.
right.
My favorite visits with my fiance's family are when we just stay home and like watch movies all weekend,
Just
and
hang
we
out
just
and
like,
yeah,
yeah, like we literally don't have to leave the house, don't have to spend a dollar.
yeah.
We don't even have to talk. Like we could both just be scrolling on our phones on either
That's
ends
a
of the
bigger
couch
thing
and
too.
like
Like
just being together, coexisting is my
there
favorite
doesn't
thing.
have to be talk, right? Like sometimes the silent things
Yeah, because
together are
I'm
like
like,
the better.
I'm just scrolling at home. You're in your bed just scrolling at home. Let's just do it together. Like I just don't want
Exactly.
to be by
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Or some of my disabled friends and I will FaceTime when like, especially if one of us has to do a task we don't want to do, like if we
Oh
have to do
yeah.
chores or like body doubling, we'll like FaceTime and we'll just be on the phone, not even talking, just both of us doing
Just like
chores
doing
like around
stuff,
the
like seeing
house.
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's
See,
just like those
that's
like
so
every couple
good.
minutes you like say a little something or whatever, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
I just like to coexist. We don't have to talk.
Yeah.
There doesn't have to be a whole thing. We don't
Well,
have to
with
do anything. It's just
disability,
coexisting.
like you were saying, like with us, not being able to go places or do anything
Hmm.
quite as strenuous, but like how cool is that though to be able to just like turn on a screen, you're just like doing your daily stuff, and
Right. And
you're
that's
kind
the thing
of
too. I'm like, we could go out and do something
yeah,
and then I won't feel well and then I'll have to be
yeah,
in bed the rest of the weekend. Or we could hang out all weekend if we don't leave the couch. You know what I mean? I'm like,
fair
I
point.
could
Yep.
make it longer and like have a better time and be enjoying it more if we
Yeah.
just chill at home rather than like going and doing this and going and doing that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just chill at
Well, some of
home.
my
Okay.
favorite ones too is like there'll be some like a new episode of a series or something. And we'll just be like having that like simultaneously watching that, synchronized and texting at the same
Hmm.
time and like,
I
doing
love doing
reactions.
that. I
Yeah, that
love
kind of
watching
stuff is
something at the
big.
same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I remember my fiance and I before because we started dating like in the pandemic.
yeah,
And so there was a lot of times we were virtual and we would do that. Like we would do like movie parties where you like start at the
exactly.
same time and you're like either on FaceTime or texting about it. And
And I
it's
mean,
just
like
fun to just be
it's
together.
cool to be able to do, anything kind of simultaneously together like that.
Right. Just like experience
Yeah.
something together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I think a cool thing too that a lot of us go through with chronic illness and disability is like the activities and the times together, like we're so creative or good with adapting,
Yeah.
you know, to make it work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I think quality time is definitely my favorite love language because I'm like, it doesn't have to be this whole
No,
elaborate planned out thing. It could
production.
literally be like you just like put some candles up, run the
Yep.
bath, and it's
Yep.
spa night all of a sudden. Like pull out
Yeah.
some face masks, and all of a sudden now it's like spa night at home. Like it's or
Exactly.
just like put your favorite movie and like make some popcorn. Like now it's movie night. Like
That's how
it
you use
doesn't have to
social
be this whole
media
thing.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like my nephew, you know, too. I think I have a 4-year-old nephew that I like to do stuff with, and it's just the smallest things, like, you know, just hanging out outside or watching, you know, some episode of his favorite show or whatever. It's like those little, it doesn't have to be a production. You don't have to go, you know, to these like elaborate extremes to set something up. You know, it's just
Totally. Yeah,
yeah.
like my family's still on the West Coast and I have a
Yeah.
bunch of nieces and nephews, thankfully. And honestly, that's what's so great about the virtual world is like my youngest nieces and nephews still get to grow up remembering who I am, even if I only visit once or twice a year, because I'll like send them
True.
videos or we'll like FaceTime. And she's must be 4 now. My
Yeah.
niece, she's old enough now, she'll hold the phone and like walk around the house. And
Oh,
she
nice.
just calls me and like shows me her newest stuff. Like we don't really talk about anything, but she's like, here's this new dress. And then she's like, look at my shoes.
That's
I'm
so
like,
cool.
Like she just literally, and my sister will text me afterwards and she's like, thanks for like going on the house tour with her. Like she'll just
Yeah.
take me around the house and like, but it's so funny. And she'll like send me little cards in the mail, but it's just so nice that we can still
Nice.
keep up. And it's not like, oh, I don't remember her because we haven't seen her in a really long time.
Yeah.
And you can still do so much virtual connection.
You can still be a part of their lives and stuff that way.
Yeah. And I always love being with my nieces and nephews because I just feel
Yeah.
like kids are so
the energy
not
is so
simple
good.
in a bad way, but like they're just like they don't have a filter yet. They're not insecure yet. They're not like overthinking yet. They literally
Zero
just like
filter.
say what comes to their mouth and like what. And I'm like, you're right. Like and I always leave hanging with them. I'm like, I want to be more like you. Like
I know
you don't care. And you shouldn't. Like why do I care? Like you're you and you express yourself, no filter. You're not worried about people. I'm like, good for you.
I wish we didn't lose some of those things, you know,
right?
like as we're growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, remember what the kids are doing. Like, let's try to do more of that.
I know. I'm like, I want to be more like them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I totally get what you're saying there. But yeah, well, I feel like we could keep going for another hour, CarmenRose.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Really
I'm like,
good.
it feels like it's been like 30 minutes and like 4 hours at the same time. Like, I'm like, we just hit record, but I'm like, no, it's been a little bit of time.
I know. The last thing I wanted to ask you actually about is the art in the background. I was seeing that and I'm very curious, like what the inspiration is, like how you can.
Love doing Zooms and podcast recordings here because of this.
Yeah.
And I will literally unblur my background because of this. My favorite thing to say is that the artist lives in house. So my fiance actually made these. So she was a studio art minor in college, or maybe it was a double major, but she also did studio art on top of she does marketing now. And so these ones on the end, she actually made in college. And so they're wooden carvings and she carves them and then she shades them with graphite.
Wow.
And so the two on the end were from college, and then the one in the middle she made in 2020. And I just like, my dream is like one day to like get her some studio space. I'm like, I would cover my whole house with them. Like it's so cool. And I just love being and like people. I oftentimes like film my injection videos here. Like I like to put that in the background. Yeah. And people are always like, oh, who did that? And I'm like, oh, the artist lives in house actually. Nice. Yeah. So that's what's cool too. I'm like, she has her whole marketing job, and I'm like, you could be an artist full time. Like yeah. So, one day I'll get her studio space and she can be making them full time. But
very cool. Yeah. I just right away, I've been seeing them the whole time we're talking. I'm like, that is so interesting.
Right?
Like, yeah.
It's cool because I'm like, oh, I would buy those, and it's so
like
cool.
Comic / anime / I don't know.
It's like
kinda...
like almost cartoon, like the way that because she also draws them on like paper, and like she'll like take someone's face and like put the phone and like put transfer paper on it and then like trace it and then makes it big and like really cuts the wood and then shaves them. Yeah. And it's just so interesting too, like without them having eyes, like none of them have eyes. But they still have expression. But right? And what's interesting is the ones on the either end she did based on, there's like I think like maybe 10 or 12 in the set, and they're all supposed to be ambiguously based on a culture, but she didn't identify who. But it's almost one of those things where like you can know. Like I bought that one because and she ended up telling me, but like for me, it feels like Hispanic culture. And she was like, yeah, you're right. That is the one I did on. But it's like she didn't have to tell me, and I just saw it, and I was like,
You
God, that
just
feels like
felt it.
Hispanic culture. And this
Yeah.
one she saved because it was based on African culture, and it's just cool because
Okay.
it's not immediately like what you see, but then you're like, oh yeah, I pick up on that. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Very cool. I had
thank
to
you for
ask you
asking.
about
I
that.
love
It's like,
talking about it.
that's
No, I
not
love
fair.
talking
Yeah.
about it. That was a
Yeah.
perfect question.
Awesome. Well, I sure appreciate the time. I definitely think we could
You
have a follow-up episode
too.
at some point if you're good for that.
Yes.
So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was so nice to finally virtually meet and put a face
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the social media friend.
Right.
And
That's always good to be able to do that. I
yeah,
feel
and thank
like,
you for
yeah.
asking me to do this. This is so
Yeah,
great.
totally.